Να καλωσορίσω και επίσημα τα παιδιά και γνωριστήκαμε πριν και στο γραφείο μου. Χαιρόμαστε πάρα πολύ, παιδιά, που σας έχουμε και έτσι ανταποδίδετε και εσείς την επίσκεψη που και εμείς σας κάναμε πριν από κάποιο χρονικό διάστημα στο σχολείο σας, στο Γυμνάσιο Καλαμαριάς. Οπότε λοιπόν θεωρούμε ότι αυτές οι δράσεις προάγουν και την γνωριμία μεταξύ σας και την αλληλεπίδραση και μας κάνουν και όλους πιο δυνατούς, γιατί και εσάς σας ενδυναμώνουν στο ρόλο σας. Αναπτύσσετε δεξιότητες επικοινωνίας, κριτικής σκέψης και βέβαια σε ό,τι αφορά και το μάθημα των Αγγλικών. Οπότε είμαστε πάρα πολύ θετικοί και χαιρόμαστε πάρα πολύ που σας έχουμε σήμερα μαζί. Εύχομαι λοιπόν κάθε επιτυχία στο σημερινό debate.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Αν είμαστε έτοιμοι, νομίζω ότι είναι όλα εντάξει. Με το χρονόμετρο λίγο η Ειρήνη. Να το ξεκινήσουμε. Περιμένουμε λίγο.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's debate. The motion for today's debate is that death penalties should be abolished. On my right, for the affirmative side of this debate, we have Maria and Krisa with their name for their team, Krima.
This is the affirmative.
The negative, sorry. And on my left, for the affirmative side of this debate, is Harris and George Ξάιδος, with their name, the defenders. I remind you that all speeches are not to exceed 5 minutes, whilst the cross-examination phase lasts only 2 minutes. So for the affirmative constructive speech, the defenders.
Most honorable judges, most worthy opponents, most helpful timekeepers, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, we, the affirmative side of this debate, strongly and firmly believe that death penalty should indeed be abolished. But before I begin presenting my arguments, I think it is cardinal to define what death penalty and what abolished means. Death penalty, or in other words, capital punishment, is the infliction of death for breaking the criminal law. And abolished means to be entirely banned. So, why death penalty should be banned? Well, first and foremost, because it does not accord with the human rights movement, which is advocated by social organizations such as Action Aid and Amnesty. Furthermore, numerous countries are in the process of banning death penalty, which indicates that we move forward as modern societies. By maintaining death penalty, we move backwards. In addition to that, it seems to be more beneficial for the criminal to be put in jail, because he will be given the chance to repent and apologize. Last but not least, in many cases, people were put to death for crimes they did not ever commit. In other words, the jury mistakenly convicted them to death penalty, and when their cases were reopened, they were proven innocent. Such cases are those of Carlos de Luna, Larry Griffin, Ruben Cantu, David Spence, Jesse Farrell, Ellis Falker, Leo Jones, Cameron Todd Whittingham, Joseph Oder, and Leonard Ferrara, and of course George Stinney Jr., whose story is quite famous because the well-known movie The Green Mile is actually based in George's incident. So George, a boy in our age, only 14 years old, having his whole life in front of him, was executed by electric chair in 1944 in the United States, making him the youngest person to be ever executed in the US. However, unfortunately, we can't do anything about that, because life, the most precious thing in this world, hopefully cannot be taken back. In conclusion, for all those reasons we mentioned, death penalty should be abolished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. Now I would like to call upon Krima for the cross-examination phase.
You mentioned that,
Can you speak up a bit?
you mentioned that the judges may take their own decision, but there cannot possibly be a 100% success rate in the judicial system. What do you think about this?
I think that when it depends on human life, they should be 100% sure that their choice is right.
you said that it does not accord with human rights, but do you really believe that those criminals who have killed people are humans?
Well, I think at the end of the day, everyone is human. Of course, not everyone makes right decisions, and some murder people and do such horrendous acts. So, for that reason, we don't kill them, we can send them to prison. There are sentences based on what crime they commit, and there can be given multiple life sentences, if I'm not mistaken, depending on the level of the crime. So I think that there are forms of punishment for even those that are not deemed human for some people, but I don't think killing is the right choice we have to make, because, as I said, at the end of the day, they're still humans.
So we now move to the negative rebuttal from the second team.
We carefully heard what you said, and we can see your points, but we think that some of them are one-sided. First of all, you mentioned that death penalty does not accord with the human rights, but we believe that those criminals are not exactly human. They have killed people, so we are more like monsters than humans, so we have to give them the same thing they did. We have to kill them an eye for an eye. Secondly, you said that we move backwards by killing those criminals. Actually, the death penalty is not as harsh as it seems if we understand the pain, torture, and hopelessness of the offender's victims. Back to the medieval ages, as known as Dark Ages, the prisoners were executed with much more cruelty. The petty thieves had their hands cut off and afterwards died from blood loss. Some others were burned alive, and not mention the strangling method. These punishments weren't even for criminals, so if a citizen would dare disobey the so-called powerful ones, this was their fate. Compared to these ways of execution, the current ones seem more just. Today, lethal medical injections, gas jumpers, and electric chairs are used in order for the killing to be precise and avoiding any unnecessary suffering. So we don't actually move backwards, we do have some improvement. You also said that some judges may do a trial and we have killed an innocent person. But I'd like you to know that we agree that this is something, that the death penalty is not something you can reverse. But we'd like to point that only 1 in 10 of all cases that go to court end up as mistrial, meaning it is very rare for it to happen. If we also consider what a severe verdict the death penalty is, even if there is a tiny chance for the criminal to be innocent, the judge will set it thoroughly in order to be sure before giving the capital punishment. We need to trust the judicial system and its representatives. The judges in such high-profile cases double-check evidence and are extremely experienced and well-trained so as to avoid so serious mistakes of judgment.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to call upon the first speaker of the negative side, Chrissy.
Most honorable judges, most worthy opponents, most helpful timekeepers, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, welcome to today's debate. We, the negative side of this debate, strongly and firmly believe that the death penalty shouldn't be abolished. Let's first define some important concepts. By the term the death penalty, we mean punishing a human being with the ultimate penalty, that of depriving him of his life, or the form of decision of a court to end the life of a person, as a form of punishment for his deeds. To begin with, this form of punishment acts preventively, as a precaution, which means that it makes potential criminals think twice before they commit a crime. So, aspiring criminals, out of their perspective, as a feeling of fear lingers and compliance is created. Moreover, another reason why the death penalty shouldn't be abolished is that it protects society from dangerous criminals. some individuals and significant agents to be released back from the community, and the capital punishment ensures that they will never pose a threat again. Furthermore, the death penalty is reserved for the most serious crimes. They warrant the harshest possible punishment. Additionally, this form of punishment is often given to repeat offenders who commit multiple serious crimes. Also, studies have demonstrated that the harsher punishments are the best deterrent for crime. So, although there are other forms of punishment as well, this is proven to be the most effective one. And the death penalty's goal is for the killing to be precise without causing any unnecessary suffering. It also can be denied that the death penalty constitutes the harshest of sentences. As such, it will be reserved for the most abnormal crimes. Taking another person's life is unquestionably such a crime. Even in criminal cases, there are degrees of severity. So, homicide is different from another. There are degrees of suffering even in murder. So, there should be equivalent sentences. As a consequence, a brutal homicide would deserve the capital punishment. The privation of life isn't the only crime that should be punished with ultimate punishment. There are professionals from the legislative field as well as from the investigative police forces that claim that child exploitation and molestation can be so harmful for a minor's life that the offender should not only serve time. The psychological impact is so severe that the child's life can be destroyed irreversibly. So, the death penalty is a well-deserved sentence for these offenders. Most importantly, I want to mention that the death penalty provides justice for victims and their families. So, if someone has taken the life of another person, it is only fair that the court decides to end his life as a form of consequence for his actions. For all the above-mentioned reasons, we, the negative side of this debate, have a strong belief that the death penalty shouldn't be abolished.
Thank you very much. Now let's get to the cross-examination of the affirmative side.
All right, you made some very good points. So I have a question for you. Killing is killing. It's murder, obviously, and it's illegal. So what makes it okay if the government is doing the killing?
Can you please repeat the question because I didn't really understand.
All right, sorry. What makes the killing okay if it's the government doing it?
We believe that it is a life will die. This criminal has killed an innocent person because he wanted to. The death penalty is not light-heartedly given. We agree that it is very brutal and it's not actually right. But if it is to protect the citizens of our country, of our town, then it has to be done.
So I listened carefully to what you said and I want to ask a second question. If you were the mother of a convicted person who after his execution was proven innocent, what would you think about that?
Of course, I wouldn't feel very nice, but a mistrial is very rare to happen, and the families of the victims need justice for maybe their kids got killed, their mothers, their fathers, their family members got killed, so they want justice for what the murderer did to their family members. And mistrial is, as we previously said, is very rare to happen. 1 in 10 cases of the death penalty is mistrial.
Thank you very much.
So, now for the affirmative rebuttal, Harris.
All right, you covered our question, so thank you for that. So I want to make some corrections. So let's begin. You kept mentioning that only 1 of 10 cases are misjudged, and there's not very high possibility for a trial to be wrong. So for that, I think that even though it's very rare, we still shouldn't be playing with fire on a matter such severe as death and deciding someone's life. So. Additionally, you said that in the medieval times it was very brutal, and I agree. It was very brutal and more brutal than now, of course. But I think that killing is still killing, and taking someone's life. There's also a psychological matter to that. It also affects the victim's family. because they're still human and they still have families that care about them, or still care about them. Additionally, you said that the death penalty serves as, makes the criminals fear and makes them think twice about committing a crime. I also think that that fear also goes to the citizens, because I think it gives unrightful power to the government. So you don't know how far this can go. Many citizens may feel scared because they know their government has the right to take a life, and that's very, very scary. You also, one of the, when we were saying about rarity and an eye for an eye, firstly I have a lot of points to clarify now. Firstly, I think that an eye for an eye is a very childish philosophy, because if we take that and apply it to other aspects of life, so that means that if someone steals from you, you should steal from them back. I don't think that's a very mature response. And additionally, we kept saying an eye for an eye, if someone murders someone, you should kill them. Let's remember that murder is not the only crime that gets punished by capital punishment. There are also drug trafficking or espionage or other crimes that I don't think that eye for an eye would really apply to and be effective. And also, lastly, you mentioned that it's not as brutal and it's suffering, and it did not provide suffering for the victim. As I said before, I think it provides suffering for the families, and is an electric chair and other methods of capital punishment still suffering? They're suffering while the punishment is being done, so I think that's not very true. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
This concludes today's debate. Thank you. And we wish both teams good luck.
Μια στιγμούλα. Εδώ τώρα το κοινό θα ήθελα παρακαλώ, εδώ είναι ο Γιώργος, εδώ είναι ο Χάρης, εδώ είναι η Χρύσα και είναι και η Μαρία. Εντάξει παιδιά, το έχουμε το όνομα πιστεύω έτσι, Χρύσα και η Μαρία. Θέλετε λίγο να έρθετε εδώ παιδιά να σας δω, γιατί περάσαμε τώρα στη φάση που θα ψηφίσουν όλοι εδώ. Καθίστε έτσι εδώ μπροστά να σας δω μία. Μπορείς να μοιράσεις ένα χαρτί, θα ψηφίσετε